The main thing you need to understand with the Andromeda update is that we now have the option of doing rapid creative tests. Before, with the power of 5, the ideal scenario was that we test 5 creatives, 5 images or videos or something like that, and then we cycle them through. Now we can even do 25, 5 times that. So basically, now that you have the option of testing 25 creatives at the same time, you can test out exactly what image, video is going to go well with which specific type of product or service. So the next thing you need to take into account is the product test. The DPA side enables this campaign to test and match products with creatives in order to improve conversions. So you can imagine that we have now multiple layers of optimization, the product side and the creative side. And then on top of it, when you add machine learning to it, you get this machine that's able to figure out which creative, which audience, which product. It's insane, it's next level. But you need to understand how to properly feed it the data. And now product sets come in. So what are product sets? Product sets are a subdivision of your catalog. These sets I like to have just because you can then optimize them depending on the cohort you're going after. Now, the first thing that I think you should do if you want to optimize your machine learning experience here is to limit the products you're gonna go after for advertising. Because if you have 50,000 products, it's going to take the algorithm a lot of data before it concludes if it's a positive or a negative test and what it should do. So the thing that I stated before, less is more when it comes to data. If you want faster return on ad spend, if you want faster results with Advantage Plus, that's the thing you need to go for. Clarity of data, precise data, not machine gunning and shotgunning everything you see with data. So what should you do as a business owner? You should look at, first of all, what are your best-selling products? And I would make a cohort for them. I would look at advertising only maybe the 5-10 best-selling products, because you're going to have to spend a lot of money anyways to advertise and anyways to acquire a new customer. So what's the point of advertising the products that nobody wants to buy? So all of a sudden, we cut out a lot of stuff that is unnecessary. Another thing that I would look at is eliminating any of the products that have low margins or not enough margins. Why? Because there's no margin in it. Like, we need to have space in order for us to acquire the customer. Otherwise, it's pointless. Now, besides that, we can also look at making a line for prospecting products, because you know which products are interesting to your customers and which are boring. But the boring ones are the ones that sell well in remarketing. So having those two product sets is going to make a lot of sense. And then if you're a general store or something like that, making product sets by niche or by cohort or by type of customer is going to be something you really want to do. And you can do that quite easily here by going in and creating a product set, using filters or doing manually, and then you can figure out what you want to do. So in our case, we're going for some things that are either best-selling. We have Celtic and Irish. We have best sellings. We have animals. Because this is a home decor business, you have a lot of different subcategories, but you can see all products that we have in stock and stuff like that. Now, if you're a business that's big and strong, you might have seen broad testing with Advantage Plus. And that's basically when you let a really broad targeting system with a lot of creatives and a lot of products in the product set, and you just let it go wild. You let it go crazy. And the point of this is that if you have a couple 100,000 or even more people coming each month to your website, the algorithm potentially can figure out an audience and a product and a creative without your input anymore, and you just needed to let it why. So when you have enough power behind the algorithm, you can let it do crazy like that. But the point of this video is to help you get to that point. Okay, now let's get to the implementation of the framework. I'm going to show you the same system that we use to generate millions of dollars for our clients each year. Step 1, the pre-launch audit. Before you even think about launching an Advantage sales campaign, you need to set up 3 things: the product catalog quality, the creative asset library, and you have to have the existing campaign performance data. So all of the things that we mentioned before. With the product catalog, I would start off a bit wide, again, considering that you should have traffic coming to your website. You can start off with 10 to 50 different products, descriptions, and custom labels. Creative library, I would suggest that you start off with minimum 15 different assets that have specific tests behind them, and let it run for at least 30 days until you established a nice benchmark that you know what you're doing. But there are some steps that you can do to optimize it further, and I'm going to mention that later. Now, step 2, strategic campaign optimization. Even though we're letting the algorithm go crazy, we still have to do some kind of optimization to it. Meaning that in the case of a creative or a product or something like that, spending a lot of money and not delivering the desired results, it's completely fine pruning those small subtests away. So if you start off with 50 products, you're completely in your right as the media buyer to shut off from that product set each product that doesn't work well. Because if you, for example, have 10 products and you cut off the one that's bottom performing, all of a sudden the other 9 that survived have an additional 10% more space for it to grow and optimize and learn faster. Again, with the machine learning system, less is more, especially at the start until you beef up your algorithm. A small note here. When you're optimizing products, it's really gonna require you to have a specific strategy. You can always shut off just the ones that are not performing, but I would always suggest that you have a clear understanding of what you're selling. Are you selling bundles? Are you gonna sell higher price products, lower price products, higher margin products? There's a lot of different ways that you can make decisions, but you really need to establish a baseline logic before you just start willy-nilly shutting off products, because these products are gonna be the key backbone of your success as the media buyer. Because if you give a offer to your audience, they won't buy, no matter how good your algorithm is. You really need to understand, if you give them a product, they're still not gonna buy. So optimizing the products is gonna be really important, but as well as it can kill you. Now, step number 3, the optimization schedule. When it comes to just launching, we mentioned we're going to run it for 30 days. First week, do not touch it. Let it do whatever. The main reason is because in the first 3 to 5 days, if you haven't properly excluded, and even if you have, often enough, it's still going to figure out some low-hanging fruit, and it's going to start hitting some kind of remarketing audience. Some people that already had some contact with your website and products. And that's why it usually starts doing really well in the first 3 to 5 days, and then it dies off or slows down because it depleted a hot audience. This is why you need to wait for it to deliver results for a week or 2 before scaling the ad spend. That's going to be super important. So you don't touch it until it starts delivering results on an audience we can consider cold. Week number 2. Budget optimization. Basically, you need to look at which ones are doing well, which ones spent a lot of money without any results. So for example, you spent $20 and you got 1 click, or you have a lot of clicks, but the lowest click rate is on this specific creative, or you have some sales, but this one doesn't have any add to cart. So basically, you're killing off the weakest set. Is it going to be a product? Is it going to be a creative or something in between, or maybe adjusting an audience, adding an exclusion? Those are the things you need to think about. Week 3, you can do a creative refresh based on performance data. So I would do a couple of spin-off tests based on my best performing campaigns. And then in week 4, I would go in and start killing off anything that didn't work. Turn off anything that didn't give results above the benchmark. For example, ROAS above 2, anything that's under 2, we kill it off, and then we let it run until it's optimized. So the whole optimization here is eliminating the bottom performers in order for us to get more results for the same amount of ad spend. And then the last step is just going to be performance monitoring and decision improvements. You're going to continuously look at the metrics, the threshold. You're going to be the one deciding when to scale and when to pause. My suggestion is in the second week, you can start scaling 10 to 20% every couple of days. But again, it's really dependent on how many new variables you add to the campaign. Now, when it comes to our specific framework and how we make decisions, if the ROAS drops below the target for 3 consecutive days, we're going to start pausing a lot more. If the cost per acquisition increased 25% over a week, or something is starting to fluctuate really badly, we're gonna look at the metrics. It's usually because the algorithm gets stuck hitting a small group of people. Even though you said to Meta target 2 million people, it got stuck targeting 2,000 people that are now hating you because they cannot see anything besides your ad. You can see that in frequencies. When the frequency goes above, let's say 4, I would already start being concerned, because if your budget is small and you're hitting a massive audience and your frequency is high, you're stuck. And then in that situation, the only thing you can do is restart a campaign, duplicate it, launch a new one or something like that in order for you to unstuck it. Keep in mind that these problems end up being a problem at the setup. So somewhere you need to add an additional variable or exclude people from your hot audiences. Now, as you can see here, this isn't a set and forget strategy. This is a strategic, data-driven optimization system that looks at what's working, what's not, and just continuously nurturing the things that are working the best. So keep in mind, there's never going to be anything that's just going to do the work instead of you, because then you're not going to be getting any of the profits. Now, when it comes to budget allocation, people keep acting like these campaigns are the same as the campaigns you ran before. And it doesn't make any sense, because if you're in a Formula One car and you're driving it like a Honda Civic, you're an idiot, not a guy driving a Formula One car. So what does this mean? Driving a Formula One car means that advantage sales campaigns are gonna need a lot more money in order for them to get properly optimized. So meaning that just because you're driving a Formula One car slowly, you're not saving money. It's still gonna end up burning a lot of your money from fuel. So if you decide to go for the Advantage Plus, you need to keep in mind to have a minimum of 5 times the cost per acquisition per day in order for you to optimize the algorithm fully. Basically, asking the algorithm to do its job with not enough money is gonna make it work with insufficient data, and it's never gonna deliver you good enough results, and you're gonna end up burned without any money. So here's an exact example of a framework. If your cost per acquisition is $20, you should start off with $100 per day and don't touch it for the first 5 days. And then after that, you should start thinking about increasing it to 10 to 15, 20% ad spend per every couple of days. Most people are going to try scaling this too fast with budgets that are too small. And then you start off with a budget that's $50 when you need 100, and you start increasing it, and it's just going to fall off a cliff. Better start off with a smaller campaign with a bigger budget than vice versa. Keep in mind as well is that as you add more variables, as you add more creatives or products into the test, the budget should be bigger. And that's going to be impacted by the cost of your product and the cost per impression that you're targeting for. So as you can see, if you don't have a big budget, if you don't have a lot of people coming to your website, advantage sales is not going to be the right choice. And that's one of the biggest problems. Facebook reps, most gurus won't tell you when to use things properly. They're just pushing towards their own agendas. There's never going to be a magic solution to everything. That's just the lazy side of us hoping that's going to happen. We've tested this extensively, and there's specific scenarios where traditional campaigns will outperform advantage sales campaigns, no matter how smart these advantage sales campaigns are. So let's say it like this. If you're spending less than $1,000 on a month for Facebook ads, you really need to think about sticking to the traditional campaigns and not using advantage sales, especially if you're just starting off a new business, you just are running it for the first time, and you don't have a clue what you're doing. Scenario number 2, if you have a very specific, narrow target audience, like a B2B software or dental practice, traditional campaigns will outperform advantage sales because the algorithm doesn't have enough similar users to expand on. And scenario number 3, if you're in a highly regulated industry with specific compliance requirements, the lack of audience control and the advantage sales can cause show for you.
I'm going to show you why we can't use the Advantage Plus campaign when we are running the financial special category. First of all, I'm just going to create a new one from the start so you can see why it's not Advantage Plus. So when you create a new campaign, it's automatically Advantage Plus sales campaign or Advantage Plus leads campaign, depending on which objective you choose. However, once you declare as a financial product service, the Advantage Plus part is gone. With financial product services, you're limited to what you can do and who you can target, and it's basically everyone between ages of 18 and 65. You cannot move this part, which again makes it not Advantage Plus if you don't have that option. And also you can't choose to target a specific postcode or zip code. You can only target the whole countries. You do have an option with custom audience inclusion and exclusion as with the normal campaign or newer version of the Advantage Plus campaign. You have some part of the Advantage Plus features like Advantage Plus placements, which is basically automatic placement. They just changed from automatic placement to Advantage Plus. So everything that's automatic now, it's actually the Advantage Plus. They just kind of renamed it. However, the campaign on the campaign level, it's not Advantage Plus because, again, it's probably not using the Advantage Plus audiences because it's delivering to a limited segment of audiences as you declare as special financial category. Your delivery is already limited in terms of what you can target, who you can target. Also, if you are going to use some detail targeting or interest targeting, you're also limited to some interest. Basically, you cannot target the same interest as you would with a standard campaign. And yeah, that's That's pretty much it.
So it's an example. We've tested this with the client in the financial service space. Traditional campaigns ended up delivering 2.5 even better quality leads than the Advantage sales, just because there wasn't enough data for the Advantage sales campaign to base off the results on. This doesn't mean that as this business grows, it wouldn't be good to use them later, but until there's enough data in the pipeline, you will lose most of the money you put in. So to make a point, Advantage sales isn't a religion, it's a tool, and you need to make sense of it in order for you to know when to use it. Because if you're just listening to gurus and trying to shut off your brain, you're gonna get stuck or hit a wall and you're gonna end up in a problem. Now, I hope this intro into Andromeda helped you and that you understand when to use the Advantage Plus and when not, because we see all over Reddit that people are screaming their heads off that our Advantage Plus campaigns are just not delivering the results that they were hoping for, and I just wanted to help you not go through something like that. In the case that the Andromeda update doesn't work for you as well, please drop it in the comments and let us know how we can help you. See you soon in the next one.